Three, two, one.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the ninth episode of the Squat the Planet podcast. Today's date is October 7th, 2018. I am joined again this week by our good friends, Andy. Say hello, Andy.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Andy.
And Geraldo. Not the
Hi,
one of
Geraldo.
television fame, but our good old Geraldo from the Squat the Planet forums. So,
Well, hi there, y'all.
um, so thank you all for joining us once again. Let's see, we have a bit of a different show for you today. Basically, we do not have anyone that we're interviewing this week. We will be interviewing Mad Andy on the forums next week, who has his own little podcast called Latitude Adjustment, and we'll be talking to him next week. But today we're trying to do a little bit of a theme format show, basically, where we are going to be talking about making money on the road, different like ways that you can kind of sustain yourself financially while you're traveling and whatnot. And we're going to go over a bunch of bullet points of that with some of our own personal suggestions and stories. But before we do that, we are going to have we're going to cover some news stories. We got a Q&A question and some announcements. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Basically, announcements are for the website. We have opened up a new videos section of the website. Basically, if you go to squattheplanet.com/videos, you'll see it's kind of like a YouTube-ish like directory of videos, and it's all stuff that's like related to the community and traveling and stuff in general. It does support, you can submit your own videos. It supports videos from multiple video services, not just YouTube. So if you want to put a Vimeo video or I don't know, Ustream or Twitch or something like that in there, you can. It uses the kind of like the same category structure that we have in the forums. So if you see the categories in the forums, you'll immediately recognize them in the videos section. Go ahead and go in there and contribute any of your own videos that you think would be cool for other people to see. It's basically just kind of taking like the videos section, like videos that we have in threads, but instead compiling it all into one area that is a little easier to see. There's a comments section. There's comments on all the videos, and it all ties into the alerts system. So if somebody comments on your comment and whatnot, or you'll get alerts for that and all that good stuff. So go ahead and check that out. If you have some cool videos you think people would like to see, add it to the collection, and hopefully we can build it into like a really huge collection of just like crazy awesome videos from all around the internet that would be of relevance to the Squat the Planet community. So that's the only announcement I have for the Squat the Planet website today. We have next up some news stories that we wanted to talk about. Lucia, did you want to talk about the thing in Los Angeles?
Oh, so there is a typhus outbreak currently in LA for any of you dirty kids in the Best Coast, or the dirtiest part of the Best Coast. It is flea-borne from the rats that are on the streets of LA, because of course. So be safe, stay away from rats, and if you get a rash or fever, please go to the doctor.
Yeah. I think it's funny because if anyone needed another reason to avoid Los Angeles, Now you have it.
Ta-da!
If you go to LA, you're gonna get a flea-borne typhus infection. So I think that's pretty funny. I also, the first thing, Lucia, when you sent me that article, the first thing that popped into my head was like, I could just picture like two or like a bunch of crusties like going like, dude, like, have you gotten fucking the flea-borne typhus from LA yet, man? Like, it's like the new Hep C, man. Like, people, all the oogles will start collecting it. Yeah, I don't know. That's
Trading fleas like magic cards.
I'm so trained, core. I was born suicide and got typhus in downtown LA.
Oh man, yeah. Just oh god, I just wish LA would just fall into the ocean. Really. Sorry to anyone that lives in LA, but fuck your town. Anyways, so I think that's that really. I don't know, Andy. Did you have any comments on that?
Well, I'm going to LA in December. Hope that clears up my.
Well, okay, LA, you have permission to fall into the ocean after Andy leaves the area.
Give it like a month. That's all I need. After that, do with it as it will.
All right. Well, the other news story we had actually is from timesunion.com. Forum member Oakmoth posted this, so thank you, Oakmoth, for bringing this to our attention. But basically, news article saying Albany, New York, millennial survivalists share downtown squat, anarchist ideals. We'll have a link to this and the typhoid story in the show notes, but basically this story is I don't know if I should read the whole thing, but let's see. David Gunn had just been released from the hospital after trying to kill himself when he met a fallen beauty who changed his life. It was a downtown Albany townhome painted ivory, abandoned years ago, but with its elegant bones and tall glass windows intact. Gunn, 30, climbed the wooden stoop and turned the doorknob. The door was unlocked. Quote, like most abandoned buildings are in Albany, he noted. The two-story walk-up had no electricity or running water, but inside was a wonderland of grace notes, arched doorways, bookcase built-ins, hardwood floors. A huge black A surrounded by an O adorned one wall, the symbol created by 1890s anarchists, then made famous by 1970s punk rockers. Since 2016, 3 to 8 self-described anarchists have lived here. They have about 24 Capital Region supporters who are welcome to drop by and plan protests and vigils. No county or city official has noticed the squatters. The building gave Gunn a home, true love, and a community of friends. Anarchist sounds like a quaint and antique. It sounds as quaint and antique as Duel of Honor or a gargoyle sculptor. That's a weird way to describe that. But here's what it means to Gunn and his friends who are vehemently vegan. Shun all governments, champion the worker class, barter and forage rather than use money. It's not putting it too strongly to say that anarchy saved my life, said Gunn, who has no family. It gave me purpose. Anarchy showed me that feeling you have nothing to lose can be liberating and positive, unquote. The anarchists don't know who owns the house in the historic neighborhood where Gilded Age barons built second and third city homes. The street's residents are hardworking poor. Gunn's friends acquired enough DIY skills like plumbing, welding, carpentry, baking to help out their hardworking, low-income neighbors and avoid the dreaded soul-crushing capitalist bosses. Their dazzling achievement is the bi-monthly Really Really Free market, or really, so not really really free, it's really free market, featuring thousands of donated items from fresh bread and furniture to clothing and toys. The last market drew 20 volunteers and hundreds of attendees. So if you guys have anything you want to comment on this, by the way, while I'm reading, feel free to interrupt me. Given their trust to government and the off-grid life, the anarchists resemble wilderness survivalists prepped for America's apocalypse. But instead of hunting, fishing, and hiding in an isolated cabin, the anarchists live downtown and dumpster dive after dark and reap unopened boxes of oatmeal, sealed boxes of juice, pallets of sweet potatoes, and purple plums. Quote, the survivalists don't want to be around people. Anarchists are social. We love our neighbors, unquote. Gunn said, we're not nihilists. If the government collapses, we can survive living the way we do. But we'll also help other people, too. I think that's actually kind of... What's that?
So, well, that's very positive.
Yeah, it is. I question the the whole if the shit really hits the fan, are we going to be able to dumpster dive to survive type of mentality. But I mean, I do think that like in that type of situation, like, oh my god, it's the Rev, like the rich people in the fences are in their fence communities are probably going to be the first to croak, while the anarchists will like make it a little bit farther. But I think you do have to like, I don't know if it's we're definitely not going to dumpster dive our way to the to a new utopia. But
well, it definitely does seem like they're it seems a little more collectivist than true anarchist.
Yeah.
Somebody is going to, like, they had people learning how to learning how to do plumbing. They're going to learn how to hunt, like, if the end of times comes. Like,
and hunting aside, you're going to, like, in New York especially, you're going to have people with community gardens who will have those like necessary skills to grow like vegetation and create small sustainable farms. So in a collective mindset, they're already doing like what they need to do in this society to survive. It's not too far of a stretch to say they're going to find the people with the right skills, keep it going if it falls apart.
Yeah, that totally makes sense to me. And if I always just imagine it like this: if you just like, if it was like an episode of Survivor, where you just pit like the yuppies against the anarchists, and then the real survivalists. I don't know if the anarchists will make it to the end of the show, but like they'll do pretty well. The survivalists will probably have the advantage, but the yuppies will definitely be the first ones out. So
I don't know. Have you seen the people?
Rat.
Have you seen the people doing CrossFit nowadays? I'd be a little scared of them.
Well,
dude, tell a yuppie that they can't get their spa day, they might go ape shit and just kill everybody. I mean, hey.
Andy, you're like,
I'm just like imagining like these like super buff like CrossFit like bleach blonde couples just like going rampaging through the streets like taking newsstands and shit.
What the fuck do you mean there's no quinoa?
Oh man, that's funny. All right, well, Garrett McCluskey, 30, is a dreamer. The former electrician brings a battery-powered sound system to local parks so that he can play vintage jazz music as a public service. A gifted musician, McCluskey agonizes over charging even the modest fees for voice and guitar lessons that he teaches. He believes making music should be a free pleasure for everyone. He bedazzled half the squat's parlor with color prints of bosomy nude ladies, 1940s era pinups. One seemed to be carved from gold. The beauties are McCluskey's vision board, inspiring his search for true love. His acoustic and electric guitars are propped nearby. I would love to have a girlfriend I could sing to. He nodded towards his nearby acoustic and electric guitars. A companion on adventures, but this lifestyle is definitely not for everyone. We believe all species, animals and humans, are equal. Animals are our friends. It would be almost impossible to fall in love with a non-vegan who's eating my friends. Um, a lot of friends, female and male, hang out at the squat but can't endure living there. When McCluskey's housemates had enough money, they called National Grid, claiming to be the new building owners. The power came on. There had been no electricity for months. McCluskey and Gunn said they would never endanger the building by starting a fire indoors. They used microwaves in a nearby gas station mini-mart to heat hot water bottles for their sleeping bags, then wore all their clothes to avoid frostbite. Kind friends with apartments invited them to couch surf when the cold was severe. Firefighters have never marked the house with a big red X sign that designates a building structurally unsafe to enter. But just because an abandoned house doesn't have the red X doesn't mean it's structurally sound, said the City of Albany Neighborhood Stabilization Coordinator Samuel Wells. Very few abandoned buildings are ready to be inhabited without a lot of work. If a home goes years without basic maintenance, it deteriorates in hazardous ways that might not be visible. Wells said abandoned house should never be unlocked because thieves can get in and steal the copper wiring and fixtures. The anarchists insist they would not harm their home, though they can be overly confident in their maintenance skills. One former housemate tried to give the flat free running water by removing the pipe's meter with a blowtorch. Now they have what is dubbed the zero-gravity toilet. McCluskey... That's funny because I've heard of bucket flushing, but I've never heard of the zero-gravity toilet. That makes it sound like super space age.
But I feel like it's just the same thing.
Oh, it is. It says McCluskey fills a 5-gallon bucket, lugs it upstairs, then pours it into the bowl to push excrement down the sewer line. So yeah, it's bucket flush. I've done that on plenty of squats.
Is it just me, or are these I feel like these people who are talking to the news are trying to make this sound appealing to yuppies. Like,
I don't think yuppies are their market, but it's
okay. Well, if you say zero gravity toilet, any person who's squatting is immediately going to be like, you're bucket flushing. Okay.
Yeah, just like, for fuck's sake.
If a yuppie reads the article and hears,
this is like
gravity toilet. Oh my God.
This is
like you said, page. Like,
this is exactly like when I talk to people who have never done anything like that, and then I'm like, oh yeah, no, I've gone dumpster diving, but it's for political reasons. I've squatted in houses for political reasons.
Oh yeah.
Just, my Latino ass can't afford housing.
It was political, I swear.
What are you saying that's what people have told you?
No, I'm just saying it like, you know, you add all these things like, oh, it's for political reasons, which makes it sound a lot more legit than it actually is. That's what they're kind of doing, I feel like. And this news report.
Honestly, I think, you know what? I think this reporter came in and they got pretty cool with the people living there and stuff, and they just wrote a positive article. I mean, sure, the zero gravity toilet thing is a little fancy, but I mean, I don't know. It's we don't have enough of these good stories and way too many of the bad ones. So
true.
I'm gonna give it a little bit of room to maneuver here. I'll give them their gravity toilet. All right. Well, anyways, let's see. The zero gravity toilet is a deal breaker for a lot of women when it comes to moving in. McCluskey's side. So, on a recent summery afternoon, he shared juicy watermelon and mangoes with anarchist buddies Gunn and University at Albany pre-med major Toby Warwick and their girlfriends. Gunn met sweetheart Alyssa Gallagher at a tofu cooking class. She had an apartment and a job at Capital Roots, a nonprofit that gets fresh produce to low-income families. Yet she loved Gunn enough to move into the squat. Quote, Dave has unique, interesting ideas. He makes an impact on the community, unquote, Gallagher said. Quote, I don't mind dumpster diving. The food is normally clean, tied in bags, not just thrown loose into a dumpster, unquote. The group searches dumpsters by groceries, bakeries, and restaurants. Only one fish market dumpster was too smelly for anyone to dive. Usually they find so much clean, edible, healthy food, McCluskey arranges excess food on the stoop in neat mini-mart rows with a sign inviting passersby to help themselves. That actually, on just like a side tangent here real quick, I've seen a lot of squats do that, and it's actually pretty awesome. I remember there was one squat in Philly that always had bagels, like, and they just had like a bajillion bagels, you know, so they'd have a bag full of bagels on their porch and it just said free bagels, and I would always go there because I was poor as fuck at the time and go get free bagels. And I've actually seen some like kind of other like just little news articles, things, mostly stuff in Europe because they seem to be like a little more down with that type of stuff, where like people have like a community fridge where it's just, maybe it's like near like the community gardens or something like that, and maybe it's plugged in, maybe it's not, but like it's usually like a place where like anyone in the neighborhood can come and get free food, or if like anyone that has too much food could just go put it in there and people take it, you know. I always thought that's fucking rad, you know, like that's anarchism in action, you know. So anyways, I guess I'll just continue here. Let's see. But I won't go anywhere near that gravity toilet, Gallagher said, laughing. I got a gym membership so Dave and I can use the showers and bathrooms there. That free market. It may seem odd for guys without conventional day jobs to champion the working class. McCluskey's most recent foray into the work world was his vegan stand-up comedy act. He was banned from Albany Comedy Club the same night he debuted. McCluskey played a video on stage of a pig slaughterhouse. Bacon. Laughter is one letter from slaughter. Are we laughing yet? He said, as mutilated pigs shrieked on screen and horrified audience members groaned and shouted for him to stop. That's pretty ballsy to like do that at a comedy club.
If I saw that at a comedy club, I think I actually might start laughing.
I mean, I get the joke. I feel like we all get the joke. But yeah, I could definitely see the normies might not be as down.
I think I'd start cheering. Like, yeah.
You just start clapping, like,
go babe, go!
This is the most hilarious thing I've ever seen.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Oh, there we go. McCluskey replied, I think I can be funny and that I'm fun, but maybe that was more confrontational than comic. The free market the free market is the anarchist true workspace or workplace. It inspired Warwick, 22, to join Gunn's group. He has an apartment and an Albany Medical Center job. He's such a loyal guy that when we planned a protest of the center's treatment of animals, Toby came and stood with us in his blue scrubs, McCluskey said. Warwick also allows his address to be displayed on social media, promoting the really free market so Albany residents can drop off donations at his apartment. The market was a transforming experience for me. I wanted to make a commitment to the group's ideals after that, Warwick said. All ages, including children, all races were at the last market. A man who needed size 10 shoes for a job wept when he found a pair. The anarchists had no idea what a pair of grab bars for handicapped bathtubs were, but a man who uses a wheelchair was thrilled to get them. It reminded Warwick of how a prosaic item can be life-altering for someone who can't earn enough money to buy it, no matter how hard they work. Creating their own world. University of Albany sociology professor Richard Lockman sees an appreciation of anarchy as a sensible reaction to being stuck in a gig economy. His upcoming book about American workers is First Class Passengers on a Sinking Ship: Elite Politics and the Decline of Great Powers. It's a hell of a title. It's a title that anarchists would relish. Millennials are in an economy with a lot of available jobs, but mostly they're just lousy jobs with no security, no advancement, Lockman said. Off-the-grid communities, rural and urban, pop up more often in uncertain economic times. Historically, anarchists' prickly personalities and unwillingness to compromise made it difficult for them to submit to adjustments most workers make without thinking in order to get along with bosses and fit into corporate cultures. But if you're young and all the corporate world offers you is endless hopping between unfulfilling jobs, the reward for those compromises seems less worthwhile, Lockman said. It's a risky move to try and create your own world, but if the world you're in now is unattractive and unstable, the risk seems worth taking. Gunn candidly discussed how his mental health struggles make relationships with traditional workplaces problematic. After his suicide attempt, he said state health officials diagnosed him with depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. Gunn says he sees a therapist and gets a disability check too small to live on. Quote, honestly, I probably wouldn't fit into a lot of workspaces, unquote, Gunn said, but I've found a way to be a meaningful part of the world. And that is the end of the article. So
That's a high note.
Yeah, that's nice.
I feel like that's something that a lot of us can relate on, and not being able to fit into like the normal workforce. Like,
yeah, totally.
I felt that one. I was like, me either.
Dude, I mean, the first, I don't know, probably no one listening to this knows, but I work in a hotel, and I never in my fucking life thought I would work in a fucking hotel. It basically represents everything I hate about society, including like rent is theft and all that shit. But you know, it's sometimes the shit you gotta do for money, right?
Right.
But yeah, I just like not fitting into a workplace. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I've been able to be a little bit of a chameleon. Like I can dress the part and like kind of look normal, you know. But deep down, I'm just like, God, I hate every one of you fucks.
You also, realistically speaking, Matt, you don't have PTSD, at least not that I know of.
No, yeah, I didn't even touch on that.
Thing. Once you have there are a lot of different mental disorders that make working difficult, if not impossible. PTSD being one of them. Generalized anxiety disorder can make, even leaving the house impossible. And then what do you do when you have to pay egregious amounts of money just to live in the house that you can't leave,
Yeah,
most certainly.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about because I like you said, me personally, I don't have those issues, so it's a little hard for me to put myself in those shoes, I guess.
Yeah.
But in this story, it's kind of like, well, this is a great example of squatting working for people. So, yeah, I like it. Positive note.
Mm-hmm.
Seal of approval.
Lucia, did you want to read the accidental ocean sailing story?
Okay. I wasn't aware. Actually, no, I was completely aware we were going to do that. I thought we were going to get to the Q&A first, though.
Oh yeah. Well, let's say I figured like just to fill in everybody that's listening, like, we're coming up with some new sections of the show and like trying out some things. And one of the things I wanted to do is a travel story of the week. Like where basically like we pick like some of the best travel stories that have been posted on Squat the Planet, and we'll read them out here on the show, give some opinions on it. Maybe you guys can comment on it in the comments, and it would get a little more like two-way action going back and forth between the website and podcasts and just kind of like sharing these stories with people, because I think there's a lot. I mean, there's really, like, honestly, if you take the time to look in the travel stories section of the website, there's some gold in there for sure. There's some crazy fucked up stories, like shit like you can't make up.
Probably my favorite notion on the entire forum. Like,
which one?
The travel stories. Like, there's so much gold in it. Like, it's by far my the most entertaining sub forum that I find, at least.
Oh yeah.
So it's way too long to actually have as a podcast travel story. Matt and I have already decided. But do you remember the tree sap moonshine story?
Yes, and I was trying to find the link to it
it's
to
so
possibly
great.
put in this show, but we'll try and put it in later.
That would be an entire podcast in and of itself. It's
I
like
think,
a 5-pager.
Honestly, so just to fill people in, like, we did come across this one story that someone had posted about drinking what do they call it, tree sap moonshine, which is like this naturally occurring thing, and you drink it and it makes you trip balls. And it was one of those stories where, like, I honestly, like, after reading it, I felt like I was like getting like a little bit of like a flashback from like my acid days. Like, but anyways, I think we should save that for like maybe an entire drug related episode or something, because it's just too good. I think it's too good by itself, but it should be combined with some other things. Like, but maybe later on in another show we'll do like, the craziest drug stories you've ever heard on Squat the Planet, and that'll be a theme or something. But
hey y'all, my camera definitely froze. Do I have the option to disconnect and reconnect, or no?
You did freeze. Yeah, just disconnect on Discord, and and then reconnect, and hopefully it'll be okay.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Hopefully.
The spinning icon.
Is it thinking?
It's thinking.
Uh-oh.
But let's see. While you're figuring that out,
I can go ahead and read the story.
Yeah,
Yes.
that'd be great.
All right. So this was submitted by the StP forum user Dameon. I think it's Dameon.
Dameon,
yeah, totally. And it's called Accidental Ocean Sailing. This is a story pretty much my most stupid boat adventure. One day, I decided to take the 26-foot sailboat I lived on for a sail on the San Francisco Bay to work out some kinks. I was just going out for a quick jaunt, I thought, so I didn't grab extra food or water and didn't even check my gas tank on my little 4-horsepower outboard. It was a great outboard, got amazing mileage, but it was a little underpowered for the boat, but generally got her around pretty well. I fired her up and went out for a quick jaunt around Angel Island. Gorgeous day, plenty of wind, a six-pack, and a bit of cannabis. I was in such a hurry to get out and enjoy the day that I totally neglected to do one really important thing. I didn't check the tide charts. This is the most basic thing you do when you're sailing around land. You have to know which way the tide is going, especially in the bay. See, the Golden Gate Bridge is a narrow point that all the water passes through. That turns into a funnel for the entire bay when the tide goes out. The currents are crazy strong. If you're anywhere near where that bridge is when the tide turns, you need a strong wind or a strong motor to go the other direction. I think you see where this is going. I had some friends sailing along who got a good picture of me about half an hour before doom struck. Like they were teaming up against me. The wind died and the tide turned. My friends had work and had gone home, but I had 4 more beers in my six-pack and it was still early. I fired up the motor, but it was too late, and I was too close to the bridge, kicking and screaming. Outboard at full throttle, I was still getting dragged backward towards the open ocean without any real supplies. The gas lasted 30 minutes before the outboard finally ran out of gas. At that point, I knew I was going out the gate and out to sea. I decided I was okay with that. Once I was out the gate, the tide wouldn't be nearly as much a problem, and in about 5 hours, the tide would turn again, bringing me on in, at which point there'd hopefully be some wind. I worked the tiller like crazy to keep me away from the rocks on the way out, and then I'm home free. Sunset was gorgeous as I went out the gate and out to the ocean, dolphins trailing in my wake. The waves were big but gentle.
Oh shit. Hmm. Okay. It seems like I am having some technical issues with Andy's audio there, so let me try and fix this here real quick. Uh, let's see here. Audio capture. Okay. Let's see. All right. Well, let's see. Technical difficulties, unfortunately, folks. Let me switch over here and we'll try and be back on here in just a moment.
Stay tuned.
Okay, so
Cool.
I think we're back. Okay.
We are
Are we
back,
back?
actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
No, cool. Awesome.
That was. I was just like. I clicked something trying to fix your video, Andy, while Lucia was gone, and I was just like, "Oh fuck me!" The whole thing just shat the bed.
No, not again, not again.
Like,
Oh, wait. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. I'm not paused. Sorry. I thought that I was frozen again.
Do you know where I left off? How much? I would just kept speaking, and I didn't realize that there was nothing coming through. So.
Oh yeah. No, it's cool. Basically, you were at the part where Dameon was consigning himself to the fact that he's going to go out to sea, but the changing tide should bring him back, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully.
Back into character.
You got it, Andy.
Once I was out the gate, the tide wouldn't be nearly as much of a problem, and in about 5 hours, the tide would turn again, bringing me on in, at which point there would be hopefully some wind. I worked the tiller like crazy to keep away from the rocks on the way out, and then I'm home free. The sunset was gorgeous as I went out the gate and to the ocean, dolphins trailing in my wake. The waves were big, but gentle. I wasn't really worried. SF Bay is some of the toughest sailing in the world. Lots of rocks, extremely strong currents, powerful winds that could switch direction without any warning, lots of stuff to accidentally hit, choppy waves that can easily kill forward momentum. The ocean is cake in comparison, especially a nice calm ocean. I steered proudly past everybody that was coming in because the sun had set. I was going to be out on the ocean after sunset. I hung out outside the gate a while, caught some breeze, and a few hours later, the tide turned. I was feeling pretty good as I coasted back under the gate under a decent breeze. I was in sight of the anchorage. I called home when the tide turned again and the breeze died. It was after midnight. God damn it.
Dameon's in the
Didn't
chat, by the way. And
Yeah.
he said I lied. I was worried as fuck.
Well, you know, I didn't have a chance. I didn't have the output slow me down this time. The current dragged me over to the other side of the bridge, and I found myself getting way too close to one of the pillars of the Golden Gate Bridge. Actually, right at it, with very little control. I ran to the bow of my boat and threw the anchor I had ready to go, feeding the line out after it, hoping my 200 feet would be enough to catch and hold, watching behind me as that pillar got closer and closer. Finally, I felt the anchor bite and it cleated off, thank God for one stroke of luck. Now I'm sitting with my boat aimed directly at this giant concrete pillar 50 feet away, water rushing past me at high speed. I've slept under a lot of bridges and I've slept on my boat a lot, but I've never slept on my boat under a bridge. And I've never slept on the Golden Gate Bridge. So this is a new experience. It's about 2 a.m. now, though, and the day and that six pack is definitely catching up to me. The dog is fairly concerned about this development, but rolling with it. Eyeing that pillar nervously, I grab my sleeping bag and lay out in the cockpit to grab whatever I sleep I can. Of course, the fact that my anchor could go at any minute is at the front of my mind. So for the next 4 hours, I wake up every 5 minutes to make sure the pillar isn't getting any closer. It's pretty much the worst sleep of my life. Finally, the sun comes up and the tide turns again. A decent morning wind kicks up, and so I pull up my anchor and I'm off again, cruising along the shores of San Francisco while the tourists stare, cutting across the bay, and finally, I've reached the anchorage I'm calling home. Life is good. I grab onto the anchor I left to mark my spot, hop on into my dinghy, and head for the yacht club to get some lunch and tell everybody about my stupid, stupid adventure.
Yay! He
That's.
lived.
I think honestly, like as someone who's been on a boat in less than ideal conditions like that, I totally like identified with his description of having the boat uh like anchored but behind the pillar of the bridge, basically, with all the water rushing by. Like that sounds scary as hell. uh
Right?
yeah.
I mean, I can't do boats in general, first off, because I get horrible motion sickness. And the thought of just like, not only like losing control of the boat and like being stuck out there, but also the swaying, I would be in full panic attack mode. Like,
Yeah.
very, very unproductive
Well, it's a good story, and thank you, Dameon, for letting us read it on the air to everybody. Again, like we said before, if you have an awesome travel story, go ahead and share it with us in the travel stories section of the Squat the Planet website. If you want to request us to read something on the air that you think is really cool, whether it's your story or someone else's, just get a hold of us at either in the YouTube comments or on Squat the Planet, or at our email at feedback@squattheplanet.com. However you can get a hold of us, send us that message. We'll see what we can do. But
yeah.
now we have the Q&A segment of the
Yay!
show. It just consists of one question, but it is a pretty interesting question, and
It's a doozy.
yeah, it's a bit of a description. I guess I'm just gonna go into
Do you
it.
want? You don't want me to read it?
Do you want to read it? You can read it.
I would read it. Sure.
The
All
way
right.
Geraldo.
All right. Hey, been a lurker for quite a while of the site before I joined. Love it. I've read your book and it's a great little paperback. Anyways, I'm going to get straight to the point. I'm going to a complete stranger for advice, you, because I don't know what else to do. You mentioned in your book and many times on this forum that you left many relationships for the open road. At the beginning of the summer, I started traveling and it changed the way I saw the world. I started with a road dog, but long story short, things went south and I ended up hitchhiking back home alone, cutting my trip short. But the times I was alone traveling, I was happier any time and or bleh, I was happier than any time in my life. The whole time I'm out, my girlfriend is always texting and calling, telling me she loves me and can't wait for me to get back. I get home and end up moving into an apartment next to her house and settle down. I think this is what I want and that I'll be with her forever. Quite naive I was. I got a job as a butcher with over half my paycheck going to car insurance and the rest rent and all my other bills. I ended up getting many pets to fill the vast emptiness growing in me, but it's not working and I feel a little overwhelmed. My life now consists of paying bills, taking care of my many pets, going to work, and visiting my girlfriend late at night after work every day when she's too tired to really give me any attention. On my days off, she's often too busy to see me, but says she loves me and hopes that I never leave her. I feel like an emotional hose, and she's the bottomless bucket, sucking up all the emotions I give her and draining my soul. All the while, the open road softly calls to me, the never ending freedom I waited so long to feel until I finished school, and when I finally did, fell into a relationship that traps me. I tried breaking up with her once, and she ended up in a sobbing mess about to start relapsing into cutting herself. So I apologized profusely and ended staying. I don't know what to do. If you even n- I don't even know if you'll see my message or if you think a complete stranger coming to you for advice is whack. She seems emotionally invested in this relationship, but nowhere on my level. I almost can't take it. It's to the point when she wants sex first or something sexual done. I cringe up massively inside and feel like running as fast as I can away. Sorry, I gotta. There we go. Why, as someone with more experience than me, should I leave her for what I really want? Should I stay committed to her even though my life feels pointless? Even when the life of living out of my pack and sleeping under the open sky again fills me with adrenaline and excitement? I'm really sorry to bother you with this, and I feel as though I may be writing this for nothing, but I need to vent this somewhere for someone to see it. And if you don't reply, I'll be content with that as well.
So, wow, there's some heavy shit there, man. Like,
Right?
a little bit to unpack. Uh,
Capital yikes.
So
I
for
think
me, I would. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I've already replied to this person with just some of my own personal advice, and that's when I got their permission to read this on the air. Um, just for a little bit of context, I believe they're 19 years old,
Mhm.
Oh,
and so pretty young, right out of high school and stuff.
Definitely.
But there was some other detail too. He told me that I thought was kind of important. But the main thing is that honestly, I told you know what I said. I was like, dude, you pretty much answered your own question. First
Yeah.
off, yeah, like there's clearly like you're not happy. Like you've described like so many things that don't make you happy and not enough that do in this relationship. So uh yeah, I think it's pretty clear what you need to do, but I don't know, what do you two think about it?
my
Well,
biggest worry is the pets. For one, he got a lot of pets. And so
That's
the
really not
problem,
my first go-to
well,
to be
I mean,
honest.
we all know that he's going to leave her or she's going to leave him. They're 19. 19-year-olds never stay together, and he's going to get back on the road. But he did a lot of things that kind of sown seeds into staying, like the
mhm.
pets and the lease. And I understand, you wait till your lease is over and then you leave, but also, if the shelters around the area are kill shelters, would that person feel, I don't know.
You're such a
No, I
hippie.
see what you're
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
saying.
No, okay. So that's a legitimate
Listen,
concern. Honestly, my first thought was just like, oh, well, he'll just give them away to his friends or whatever, like find them
yeah,
homes. I'm just gonna assume that he's gonna find them a home.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
most certainly.
But
And
it's very like that's very kind-hearted of you to be immediately go to like the animals. You're like, dear God, the animals. like,
What can I
uh,
say?
no,
I
that
hate people,
surprised
but I
me.
love animals.
I can understand that. I know a lot of people that feel that way.
Yeah,
Oh,
certainly.
Andy, before you jump in there, the other detail is that she's 16.
Oh.
Whoa there. uh, I thought that was an important detail just because like
Yeah.
he mentions the cutting thing and whatnot, and I'm not trying to be ageist here or anything either, but also like that's kind of a big I don't know, at that period in your life, I mean the maturity between 16 and 19, I don't know. It's a big gap, I would say, right?
It's pretty
Eh, it
huge.
it is, but at the same time, it's compared to like larger gaps, like outside the like teen range of shit. It's not as big of a gap. Like
Yeah.
fucking still there's the, like the high school like mentality of like you're 16, you don't know what the working world is like, you don't know what life is like yet.
Hmm.
Same thing kind of goes for 19 though. Like there's still so much of the world and life to experience before you need to make like serious decisions about like settling down with a person.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
and
totally.
that was the first thing that I took away from this is that they don't want to settle down with this person. And yes, you can just go and hang responsibility and caution to the wind and go straight towards like living out a backpack. Cool. Do it. Awesome. But address the emotional circumstances that you're in right now before you go. Otherwise, it's just going to create more hostility and drama in your life, I guess. Is that what I'm saying?
So
And
you're
like the fact that like she's 16 and 19, like y'all are gonna meet new people, like
yeah.
very like much so in your life, and it feels like this is the crushing weight of like losing someone you care about deeply, and there is truth to that, and losing your first love. It's a very saddening experience, but there's if it's to the point where it's detrimental to both of your well-beings, you gotta go. Like,
Yeah. Uh I think it's important too to remember that. And one thing I told this person was that, you know, like you can't hold yourself responsible for other people's actions.
yeah,
Um, I mean, if you know, you can't tie yourself down into an unhealthy relationship just because you're afraid of what that person might do. Um,
yeah,
it sucks because I mean no one should feel good about breaking up in a situation like that,
certainly.
um but ultimately like you can't sit there and just worry your hair out and about what they're going to do. You got to move on with your life so that they can move on with their life ultimately. So they might be really upset, but like I mean, I would be super sad if they did do like something to themselves, but
Yeah,
uh, at the same time, you can't control that. So,
exactly.
uh, you know, trying to control that by staying with them is like totally just not the right answer. It will fester and it will boil until
Mm,
it like blows up in some other part of your life.
yeah.
So that's my opinion on it. But I don't know, Lucia, did you have anything else you wanted to comment on it?
Well, especially I had a slightly different feelings about it before the 16-year-old tidbit came in,
Okay.
but one of the most
Pretty.
important things is like in teenage relationships with people who are high school aged, there's a lot of this ideal that emotional manipulation is okay and it's how you get what you
Hmm.
want. And it's not normal. Don't do that, please, to all of our listeners. If you are an emotionally, if you're manipulating someone's emotions to get what you want, please don't. Um, but also, it's a little bit more normalized with teenagers.
Yeah,
But
I could totally
also, I
see
think
that.
that's one of the biggest stepping stones is he needs to break up with her that much harder to show her like, hey, this manipulative stuff, this, using manipulation as a tactic to get what you want, it's unhealthy, it's
Yeah,
not okay, and it's not going to get you what you want. So bye.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good
Well
point.
said. Extremely well said.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, I guess I wouldn't say their name on the air even if I did know their name. They just had a username, but so I guess I don't know how to direct it to them. I would
Yeah.
say blank. You should, yeah, definitely. I would say get out of this relationship. It's not healthy for either of you. You will both eventually move on, like the rest of us have said, and I think you should get traveling because honestly, you got your whole fucking life ahead of you, and you've already described how much it's changed your life and how much you enjoy it and how much it means to you. So I don't see any reason that you should be holding yourself back. You should definitely get out there and go see the world, man. You know, there's a lot out there to see. So I don't know. You guys have anything else you want to say on that, or are we pretty good?
I think we're ready to talk about what this podcast is about in the first place. Are you?
1 hour later.
What? You're talking about like Oh, you mean the main topic of the show? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, right before we touch on that, I do have two things I wanted to mention. One is if you like this Q&A section, leave some comments, whether it's on the Squat the Planet website or on YouTube or whatever. Let us know what you think about this situation, and if you have any advice for this person, leave it in the comments. I would like to see those, and I'll respond to any of them that are left there. Also, you can, if you have questions for us, whether it's myself or Andy or Geraldo, any of us that we have on the show, send your comments, your questions to feedback@squattheplanet.com. If you have a question like this that you want us to kind of like help you figure out, maybe you got some like questions about traveling, whether it's like gear or like just motivation or anything like that, just send us a message, feedback@squattheplanet.com. We also have a voicemail number. We haven't really been plugging enough, so we haven't gotten any calls to it yet. Maybe you can be the first. Even if you just called and said first and then like hung up, that would be pretty funny.
Wait, really?
Yeah, as Lucia runs to the payphone. But
I could do it.
The number, Matt.
The number is 262-427-8789. So it's 262-427-8789. That spells 626. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I read that. I went dyslexic for a second. It's actually 262, the number 4, crusty. So, yeah, 262, the number 4, CRUSTY. Give us a call. Leave a message. Tell us a story. Ask a question. Whatever. Well, maybe we'll play it on the show. So, moving on. I'm trying to do a book review, or at least maybe not like a book review. This is good because it's going to be a lot shorter than that. This is my book recommendation for the week. And I'm planning on doing like a book recommendation once a week, I think. We'll see if I can keep it up. But my book recommendation for this week is actually a book by Robert Wells, who runs the website cheaprvliving.com. Has a lot of information about how to live in your car and travel and enjoy life and whatnot. So he's got a book. It's on Amazon. It's real cheap. It's if you want to pick it up on the Kindle, it's like $3, and it's absolutely worth it. It's called How to Live in a Car, Van, or RV and Get Out of Debt, Travel, and Find True Freedom by Robert Wells. So we'll have a link to that in the show notes. If you're really interested in how to live in a car, travel in a car, whether it's like a car or a van or a school bus or anything like that, he pretty much covers like the entire gamut. I think the book's like 100 pages or something like that, but it's actually full of a lot of really good information on like how to live on like as little as like $300-$500 a month, living in your car, how to build a really nice setup, that you're very comfortable in, what types of cars or vans that you should try and look for that are the most reliable, all kinds of questions like that. So check it out. It's definitely worth $3 on Kindle. I think it's like $9 printed, but it's a really good resource if you're interested in traveling and living in your car. So that's it. Main discussion, man. We're finally here. We're talking
The
about
foreplay is over.
yeah. Time to get yours. So yeah, we're talking about how to make money on the road. Now this is not gonna be a complete 100% every single thing you've ever wanted to know, but I mean I don't think any of us have time for that. But we did pick a couple of topics, and we're gonna sit there and discuss them, and maybe in the future we'll have some future shows, how to make money part 2 or whatnot, and so hopefully look forward to that. So let's see, take a look at the show notes here, man.
So the first one is 6 months off on 6 months off work cycle.
Yeah, should I talk about that, or I don't know, maybe
I can talk about it.
Okay. Well,
I'm the queen of nomadic jobs, but
okay, go
you
for
are
it.
too.
That's quite a bold statement. So,
and Andy's the king of trimigants. You're the king of.
Oh, you just shat on Andy.
I did not. That's not a bad thing, is it?
You're gonna be the queen, then I will be the duchess.
The Duchess.
You get to be the Duchess.
Okay, cool. I dig it. I'll be a lowly squire. I don't really go fuck.
We're going too far with this. Let's get to the program.
So, okay, Lucia, describe to us 6 months on, 6 months off work cycle. How does that go?
Yeah, so that goes just exactly as the name implies. You settle down somewhere, you get either a month-to-month lease or a 6-month lease. You find a job at whatever you can find your job at. Hell, if it's Burger King, it's Burger King. Most people go for restaurant jobs. They end up paying very well. A lot of restaurant jobs do pay under the table in this day and age, especially dishwasher. And most dishwasher jobs, you're looking at about 10-ish dollars an hour, which is not bad. If you have the charisma and whatever is needed, you can try front of house, or, if you have the patience for people, pretty much, you can do front of house, which is better pay for the most part. I've been a bartender, a server, a host, I've been a cook, backstage cook, whatever, prep cook. I've done it all in the restaurant gigs. It's really easy. You can choose to tell them you're leaving in 6 months if it's a more transient town like Biloxi, Mississippi, Orlando, Florida, all the places that usually get a lot of tourists. They do have a very pronounced tourist season. So you go in, you work, and then you leave when the tourist season's over. There's actually a really cool one. If y'all don't have pets, there is a place called Mackinac Island in Michigan where they will even house you up. And then you just work, and you can make I think my friend who did it, I couldn't do it because I have a dog, but my friend who did it made 15 grand in 3 months.
Nice. What job was that?
Yeah. She was a server at I think it was one of the hotel and resorts at Mackinac Island in Michigan. And that's a really good one because they have a really pronounced tourist season, although it is really short. It's only about 3 months instead of 6, but it's also super good money.
It's funny. I agree with you on that whether you should tell your employer or not, whether you're leaving soon on the seasonal stuff, but everything else, like the other 80%, I would actually say I tell people just don't ever tell your employer that you're leaving. Like when you like apply to the job, like honestly, you should just lie your ass off and say, "Hey, like I plan on working for Applebee's for the rest of my fucking life," you know? Like like whatever you got to say to get your ass in that fucking job, you know what I mean? Cuz there's a bunch of other people applying behind you, you know? So just lie your ass off, because they'll never fucking hire you if you say I'm leaving in 3 months or I'm leaving in 6 months.
Yeah.
The only exceptions are, though, like you said, Lucia, Geraldo, sorry.
You've been doing this for an hour and 10 minutes, baby.
Fuck. Okay, cover balloon. But anyways, but like you were saying, Lucia. Yeah, unless it's like a highly seasonal job where it's just like they lay off everybody anyways at the end of the season. Yeah, definitely lie. Because I actually tried applying to a bunch of jobs when I was much younger, saying like, "Oh yeah, I'll be leaving in a couple months," and they're just like, "Well, we can't hire you." And like, we have to retrain somebody in 3 months. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, sorry, but I mean fuck it. It's the service industry. They're making fucking bank on your hard work, so fuck it and fuck them. So, that's just my thoughts on it. I don't know if Andy, you wanted to agree or disagree on that, or I don't know.
I mean, for the most part, like definitely you can make a lot of money in the service industry. I was a barista for a while, and the pay was under the table, so that was pretty nice. But still, like taking home like about over $100 in tips like a night, and like, well, not even a night because we were not open at night. So like getting off work at like 4, and that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely do not tell your employer you're going to leave. Like, I've never told my employer that I'm like, yeah, I'm planning on leaving in a couple months. And aside from my current job, like and like the time I was working in a wood shop, which lasted 3 years, like most of my jobs are, need money quick on the go to get somewhere else.
Am I the only one who's been totally truthful with all of the employers about the fact that I'm like leaving?
Lucia, you are pure as the driven snow.
I've never had a problem. I've literally never had a problem. I've been like, I'm out of here, like,
right?
bye. And they're like, oh, that's okay. That's to be expected.
It could also be that there's also a really high turnover rate in the service industry.
Oh,
so yeah. They're definitely more accustomed to like people coming and going. So
another really nice super tourist based or like super seasonal work job you can get. Last summer I was a kayak handler. And what that means is you go to a kayak shop that does kayak rentals or other boat rentals like canoes and stand-up paddle boards. And then they need someone to take these from the shop to the water. And then they need someone to take the people from the shop to the water and get them in and, get them going. That one almost always pays a lot of money because it's a lot of physical labor, but also get swole, man. And it's like 15 an hour. That's a good thing to keep in mind too. If you're looking for something, let's say you want to gain some muscle or some upper body strength, then yeah.
Yeah. I think I wanted to put some emphasis too, that just to amongst all these details, not to forget that like the whole point is to like it could be 6 months on, 6 months off. It could be 3 months on, 3 months off, whatever works for you. You know what I mean? Like the whole point is that like you work for one part of the year and then save your money as much as possible for the rest of the time that you're going to be traveling and not working. So, I mean, that's the way I've done most things for most of my life, and it works pretty well. I mean, I think Lucia, you were mentioning about a short lease. I mean, you can totally do that, but I personally, for me, I try to avoid leases as much as possible.
True.
If you can get in with like a friend, like, or sleep on their couch, or like even just,
Craigslist roommates.
yeah, like sublet, something where you're not like tied to a lease. Even though I say fuck leases, I've broken a million leases and never had any repercussions. But that's another subject for another time. But yeah, so yeah, save money, travel more. I think, I honestly, out of everything we're going to talk about, like 6 months on, 6 months off is like probably like going to be like the most common tactic for most people.
Yeah.
So, but there's some like really cool ways that you can go, work for a couple months and then take time off. And that brings us to our next point, which is actually just kind of like listing a couple of like cool resources real quick. Coolworks.com is a really good website that lists purely seasonal jobs all around at least the United States, maybe a little bit outside of the United States. The thing is that Coolworks is mostly jobs geared towards tourism. So there is some like environmental jobs, like trail restoration work and things like that. But mostly you're going to be working like customer service, like working in gift shops, like restaurants, working at like resorts and dude ranches and things like that. My experience personally was I got a job through coolworks.com working at Yellowstone National Park. And I feel like my experience was excellent for the most part. Although they won't rehire me for
Oh no.
for some shit that happened, which maybe I'll explain here in a minute. But but overall, it was a really good experience. Now, I feel like I might be the exception to the rule because I have known people. I think one of our moderators included, who had really bad experiences working at some of those places. One of the things that you should probably know just real quick is that like the two big companies that run like all the tourism jobs for national parks is Delaware North Companies, which is the company that hired me, and then there's Xanterra, which is the company, and they've got like Xanterra has like a pretty bad reputation for like paying really low and like kind of having like shitty like living conditions. But let's see. Lucia is distracting me.
With what? That's not me.
Oh, sorry. I thought the pink, but
Yeah.
Oh, because I have a vagina, you automatically assume everything I do is pink.
What the fuck?
I didn't mean to miscolor you. I'm sorry. But yeah, like some people are mentioning in the comments, Xanterra and Delaware North Companies, like a lot of these jobs with Coolworks and stuff, they provide housing, which is like a really big plus. So you'll have like a place to stay and stuff. Like when I worked at Yellowstone, my rent was like subsidized by the company, so I think I paid like $170 a month for like an apartment that I did have to share with one other person. So it was okay. The job itself was really cool. I got to work in a warehouse, and so I was one of the lucky few people that didn't have to interact with tourists, which was fucking awesome. I was just a stupid warehouse monkey, and I just like ran around like unpacking boxes all day and repacking boxes, and it was pretty cool. I had a killer summer. Yellowstone is beautiful, and but what ended up killing it for me, the reason that they won't hire me back is because, and I feel like I should point this out just in case you find yourself in one of these situations. There's a lot of like retirees and stuff that were working at my job. I'm not saying that they're going to be working at any or most of these jobs, but older folks with a lot of like I had some issues with my coworkers that were pretty racist. And we had no ethnic people at all. It was all white people, 100% white, as my coworkers. But these guys would just talk so much shit, like about black people that I'm not going to repeat here. But it came up with a couple of issues, and I had to like report it to my boss, and it became like a big fiasco. And then they got mad at me, and we almost got in a fist fight at one point between me and these old men, because they just would not. They just didn't want to let up because they thought I was, like, look at this young punk kid, like telling us what to think and stuff, and blah blah blah, expletives and all kinds of racial slurs and stuff. So anyways, I'm not saying that was the majority of people. There was just two individuals out of the entire company that like kind of singled me out a little bit, and it became a big issue. That on top of the fact that one of the things you should be aware of is when the company you work for kind of runs the place where you're living, like issues can come up. And the issue that I'm referring to right now is basically I had my school bus at the time, and I had let one of my friends live in the school bus while I was living in the apartment. And technically I got in trouble for it because they didn't like the fact that someone was sleeping in the vehicle outside the building. And so it just sucks when like your boss is also your fucking landlord. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's too many things to have like over one person.
Yeah, it gets weird. So I have to say that because like I said, like my experience overall was like extremely positive, but those issues came up towards the end of the season, and I know for a fact that that's why they won't rehire me, because I applied again the next year and I never heard anything. So they technically wrote me up or whatever. So but that it's it's a side tangent, but I do think it's just like one of those things you should be aware of. It's like if you don't want to work with tourists, like it's probably not the best option for you. Actually, I think a better option is the next one that we're gonna go talk about next, actually, which is unless I don't know if either of you wanted to comment on Coolworks at all.
Never used it, so couldn't say.
Okay, cool. Yeah, fair enough. Well, basically, the next one that we're going to touch on is Backdoor Jobs. It has a very unfortunate name. I'm sorry, but backdoorjobs.com just makes me think it's a porn site.
Giggity.
Giggity.
Oh, back page, backdoor. I could see it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very similar to Coolworks, but actually, I don't personally have any experience with Backdoor Jobs.
Giggity.
Giggity. Looking over their website, it's very legit. I know a bunch of people that have worked through there, and it seems that they're more centered towards like nature conservation, like I mentioned before, like trail work, reforestation, like things like that, like really outdoorsy stuff that may or may not be government related. But they also have more international opportunities, like for example, like they have a bunch of resources for like teaching English as a foreign language. They also have work abroad opportunities, like volunteer work things, and just more stuff that like seems to be like outside the US. I'm not saying the majority of those jobs are outside the US. It's probably like 80-20, but either way, it's a pretty good resource. It looks pretty cool. If next time I do that, I'll probably look at Backdoor Jobs first before CoolWorks, just because personally I would be more interested in like trail restoration rather than working with the idiot tourists. So yeah, that's that.
I love tourists.
It's funny actually. Most of the employees that I worked with at Yellowstone called the tourists the Tourons, a mixture of the word tourist and moron, because they're all fucking idiots. Like, we had to pass out, not me personally, but like a friend of mine's mom worked at the front gate, and one of her jobs is to pass out these flyers to people going into Yellowstone, telling people not to fucking put peanut butter on their kids' cheeks. Do you know why this is?
Bears.
No.
Yes. Good guess. Bears. Okay, so fucking idiot fucking tourists like go and they see a bunch of bears and shit, and so they're like, oh, I want to get a photo of the cute bear like kissing my little baby, and then like some idiot came up with the idea of fucking putting like peanut butter on the kids' fucking faces so that the bears will lick it, and then they could get like a photo opportunity, like, and of course like fucking people got mauled, so they had to pass out these flyers telling people not to do that.
But why pass out flowers? Is Darwinism really dead yet? Like, just let it happen. Let it fucking happen.
It's not the kids' fault though, when it's the parents.
Yeah, but it's the gene pool, yo.
Yeah, totally. That's true. I think the other funniest thing I ever fucking heard, but Dameon just said 33rd trimester abortion. I love the chat.
It's a gift.
So the only other thing I wanted to mention just real quick about Tourons at Yellowstone is that honestly someone asked the front gate person, when do they let the buffalo out?
What?
So like
what buffalo?
So there's buffalo everywhere.
Right.
It's a buffalo protection area or whatever. So the buffalo roam around all the time. They call it a buffalo jam when all these buffalo block the road and you can't get through. But this tourist was under the impression that all the buffaloes were kept in cages and that we let out the buffalo when the tourists arrive. So so that they could see the buffalo. Andy, you gotta go?
I do gotta go, yes.
Oh man.
Subtly throwing that into the dock for the past half hour.
Well, you didn't. Okay, so Andy wrote into the show notes in Google Doc, hey, I gotta go. Thought it'd only be an hour. I don't
like, did you see the big pink check the doc chat? Like,
I'm trying to do a podcast here, damn it. I'm not reading your notes that you're writing in the show notes. Okay, well, I'm sorry. Okay, so Andy, you got to take off then, huh?
Yeah, I mean, like, I might be able to squeeze in like another 10 minutes if we really want to talk about like trimming, like rapid fire.
Let's do a rapid fire trim.
Okay, let's skip to that.
Let's do this
because.
Okay.
All right.
This is very important. So, Andy, I have some questions.
Yes.
Sorry, Matt. I'm gonna hijack this bullshit.
Let's hijack the fuck out of it.
I want to be a trimagant, but I don't know how. Do I have to have a car and live in the car to be a trimagant?
Not necessarily. Most of the places where you're going to find trim work will have some sort of lodging available. If not like a bunkhouse, then either like an area for you to camp and set up a tent. We actually have tents for our trimmers that come in, and then like so that way like they even if they don't have a vehicle to sleep in, they still have a place like to crash. At,
Perfect.
Cool.
yeah.
So, Andy, I was wondering, how much money does this make, and what is the average pay?
So typically in earlier years, the average pay used to be around like 150 to 180 dollars a pound. However, with recreational becoming more of a thing in California, there are more and more weed growers that are like being able to sell legally, thus creating an oversaturation in the market. So now the average is typically around like 100 to even as low as $80 per pound, which is not nearly as good as money as people have been making in earlier years. And you might be able to find like a good paying gig that's still doing 150 or 200, but most of those are going to be like actual like commercial grows that have like the money for these big massive fields that they can actually afford to pay people 200 a pound, because it's just not so much a thing anymore in the smaller markets.
Huh.
So, Andy, I have a dog. Will they allow that in housing?
Depends on the farm. So for us, yes, you can have a dog, and that's completely fine. However, it has to be like kept on a leash. Make sure that it doesn't go wandering around into not just our property but other people's properties. So if you're a responsible dog owner, I don't see a real problem with it.
Excellent. And how do you get into trimming?
So that kind of varies. Like you could either go to like a trimming city, like the fucking Humboldt County, and go hang out there with a sign saying trim work. The most surefire way to find a trim job is to know somebody who already is working that job as an int, which is very difficult because that just makes it so that it's kind of like a club sort of vibe to it. Like you got to know somebody to get into it. But uh, for the most part, just asking around, talking to people, and once you get your first trim job, if you're a good hard worker, then not only when that one's done, like you'll usually get referred to another property that has like weed trimming in the general area, so that they could go, and you just kind of like popcorn around different parts of the valleys and mountains. So you never stop working if that's something you're so inclined. Once again, trimming is all self-motivated, so any person who wants to get into it, like it's one of the,
So,
you get as much out of it that you put in.
Andy, I was kind of under the impression that you just worked for one place, like for the season. Are you saying that you can hop around for like
Yeah,
one whole season between multiple
so,
places?
because there's a lot of farms that have their growing is staggered with other people in their general areas. So when we're right now we're doing our harvest, and we have our trimmers ready to go, and once they're done trimming at our farm, they go to the one next door because they're going to be ready for harvest and trimming at that one, and they just keep on going and jumping until there's no more work to be done, because if you're a good worker, everyone wants to hire you.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, how much? I mean, how much do you make a day? Did we cover that? Like, because
It
you're
depends. Most people will trim about like if you're like experienced enough to like know what you're doing, you're typically going to be doing around like 2 pounds a day on average. Now that also will vary on what strain of weed that you're going to be trimming, because
hmm.
some weeds are, or some batches and harvests are not as good as other ones, and some require more care. But generally around 2 pounds, and like a pound and a half if you're slower, which could total out to anywhere from like 160 to $200 a day. The money is not as good as it used to be, but it's still
So you're
decent.
saying like 2 pounds in like an 8 hour shift?
Yeah, about.
Okay. All right, interesting. And about like 80 to 100 per pound.
Yeah,
Okay.
depending
For
on which.
most.
Yeah, for most.
Okay.
And it all depends on like the farm that you're at. Like I've been hearing that in Humboldt right now, it's a little bit more like on the lower side of things, because they're just don't have as much like or rather there's so many people out there working that it's everything's all kind of like crowded. No one's really making as much money as they used to.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious, how do you feel about the people coming from countries outside of the United States to like be quote unquote trimmigrants? I mean, I've heard that's kind of like a bit of a slanderous term.
About as slanderous as oogle and wook. Come on.
Okay,
Like,
wait, what's a wook? I don't know this
a
one.
wook
Oh,
is just
you
oogle
don't
for a
know?
hippie. You don't know what a wook is? Really?
Oh, like a Wookie?
No, just a wook.
No.
No, okay, so what's a wook? I'm sorry, you gotta clarify
A
this for
wook.
me.
Okay. Oogle is to punk as wook is to hippie.
I've never
That
fucking
makes
heard
sense.
that in all my years of
Yeah.
knowing hippies. I've never
Okay.
heard that. That's fucking weird. I like how did I miss that?
I did not get this. I swear it wasn't me. It's been longer than I have. But anyway, as I was saying, immigrants. Um, the way that work, like how I feel about it, I don't mind it. Right now we have two workers who are from Spain, and they're great. Like I feel like any person who comes here willing to do like the work and put in the effort is deserving of the same pay as everybody else. Doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
granted, you're a trimmigrant and you're flying overseas to come here. It
Hmm.
might not be worth the while anymore because it's just like you're not making as much, and you also have to do the plane tickets and everything. And yeah,
Yeah. I think when people when I heard the word trimmigrant, I think it is being used by people that were angry that people were coming and they're stealing my jobs. Like uh, America. So yeah, that's kind of like the context I heard it in. I was like, what the fuck is a trimmigrant? Like I've never heard this. And this is a few years back, um,
uh,
but yeah. So, um, gosh, did we lose the Sia again?
I think we may have.
Oh shit. Um, all right. Well, that's okay. I can let's see. We'll keep going, and hopefully, Lucia, if you can get back in here whenever you can. Uh, okay. So, Andy, you still got a minute, or you got it? Do you got to roll out here?
What? Wait, Lucia's coming back. I think Lucia's back. Uh, if she is, then yeah, I should roll out. But if not, I can sit here for a second. Oh, darling, you're back.
Yeah.
Darling. Darling, it's good to be back.
So, well, I have to go run to back to my job, the things that I do, where
Okay.
I
All
go
right. All
that we
right,
work.
Andy. We love you.
Yeah,
Yeah, love
Andy,
you too.
thank you
You
for
too.
joining us again, man. And
Of course.
always thanks for doling out the useful information.
It's what I do. Okay, everybody, thanks for having me, and I will see you next time.
Okay,
Sounds wonderful. Bye.
take care, man.
All right. All right, Matt. With just you and I left, do you think that we are running a little short on time? Do you think we should talk about work camper jobs, RV focused jobs, cruise ships, and then wrap it up? Or
Sure, that sounds good.
gorgeous. All
Um,
right. So, for any of you traveler kids with RVs, you have an endless opportunity of options with www.workamper.com. There's also the Beet Harvest. You can be a camp host anywhere with unlimited hookup to electricity and oftentimes laundromats. Let's see, there's theme park positions as well. Usually, small farms will let you come in and work and you do some farming work like the beet harvest, like I said, or even security. Do you have any experience? Matt?
Yes. Okay, so you're
Okay,
back.
you can hear me. Can they
Yes.
hear me?
Um, yes, they can. So we're back, but the video is totally fucked. But we're just gonna have to roll with it
Wow.
because if I try to fix it, it's gonna cut off your audio. So, and let's see. So, what were you saying there?
When?
I don't know.
We have a thing called workcamper.com where when you have an RV, you can become a camp host or you can go to workcamper.com and find jobs with that. Basically, you live in your camper and so you don't have to pay rent. They usually have electricity hookups. They may or may not have water hookups, so you might have to get your own water your own way, especially with sewage and waste. But they have farm jobs, security jobs, all sorts of jobs.
Cool. We like
Yay, jobs.
jobs. Yay.
We like
Jobs for
money. We don't like
everyone.
jobs.
Yeah, we don't like work, but we like money.
One of
Uh,
the other really good ones for people who possibly don't have animals is working on a cruise ship. That is also one that's going to have some very decently good pay. You're looking at about 2,500 a month to maybe even 4 grand a month, is what I've been quoted from people who have worked on Carnival or other cruise ships before. When you're on the cruise ship, you clearly have nowhere to spend your money, so it goes farther. It's usually 3 to 6 month stints. The problem is there is small living quarters for those working on cruise ships. Also, if you work on a cruise ship, hopefully you're not somebody with an abrasive personality like I am, because I would be thrown overboard in 3 weeks. Easily. You're thrown overboard, you will die. And it has happened. People go missing from cruise ships a lot, and it's actually not a lot, but does happen. Um, Work shifts are often 4 hours off, 4 hours on, 4 hours off, 4 hours on. It goes about 7 days a week. You can't leave the boat, obviously. I mean, other than, going missing. Um, and if you are good, they'll always take you back. They always need new people. So, hey.
Yay. um, yeah, that's a cool one. Actually, there is a book that I failed to put in the show notes, but it's
Uh-oh.
actually the author is Wandering Earl, EARL. If you look up his name and how to work on a cruise ship, he sells like it's an online like PDF book. I mean, it's a little pricey to be honest. I think it's like $30 or something like that
Oh,
for
Christ.
a PDF, but the information is pretty invaluable. I actually did buy a copy of it just to see like what the deal was, and it's a pretty detailed like guide as to like the actual particulars of like how to get hired and what's involved like day to day and what types of jobs they have and all that kind of good stuff and what it's like to like live on a cruise ship for like 6 months at a time. It does sound like a pretty cool job. I've tried putting in a few applications myself at one point, although I didn't receive any replies. I was kind of aiming a little bit high though for like they're like technical divisions for like computer stuff. You probably would have a lot better luck just shooting like for the mid-level like customer service type stuff, or like service industry, restaurant stuff, bartender, things like that. But like you said, good way, you can get on a boat and then end up in a different country, and you do get time off every once in a while, like every couple of weeks, and you get to go on shore in some weird country, and then at the end of it, like you have a whole bunch of loot, like so I forgot how much it was, like 20-30 grand or something like that. I don't know. I'd have to look at the book again, but yeah, I mean, it seems like a good gig if you can get it. So it's out there if you want to try and look for it. Just again, I'll put a link in the show notes to that book, but it's Wandering Earl and how to get a job on working on us on cruise ships. So, did we have anything else that we wanted to? We
We
got.
had a couple things. There was some where we didn't have as much information as I was hoping we would have because I am a slacker, and also when people are also when people are traveling, they're hard to get a hold of. So the people that I've gotten a hold of for things about Alaskan canneries and some odd jobs just haven't gotten back to me yet. So why don't we make a part two on making money on the road a little bit later, and let's
That's true. We
wrap
are
this up.
almost at the 2 hour mark. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
we went from 16 to 8 on the live feed. I think people are getting tired of us.
It's quite a possibility. So, all right. Well, thank you guys, everyone, for bearing with us. Especially through some really frustrating technical problems. I'll try and have that all sorted out by next week. But I hope this podcast has proven useful to you, or at least entertaining. I think we all had some fun here. Heard some funny stories. Chat seemed to really be into it. So overall, despite the technical difficulties, I think this went pretty well. So let us know what you think. Give us some comments. In drop something in the YouTube comments, and subscribe and all that stuff, and let us know what you want to see in future episodes.
Or call us at 262-4-Krusty.
It sounds like we're really really into Krusty the Clown. Like, for Krusty, like, never forget. But yeah, it's memorable. It's the best memorable number we could come up with. We tried for hours.
It was my brain baby.
You did come up with that one. Yes, it was pretty good. So yeah, all right, well, thank you all for checking it out, and until next week, safe travels.
Yes, be safe, be good, do crimes, be gay. Goodbye.